Nightmare Eclipse, 1 Grudge, 60 days. Not all threat actors chase money or further national objectives. Some just want to burn the house down. Nightmare Eclipse. A solo security researcher operating under anime-decorated aliases like Chaotic Eclipse and Dead Eclipse has released 6 Windows Zero-day exploits since April 2026 in what Barracuda's threat intelligence team describes as an escalating retaliatory campaign against Microsoft. The motivation, per Eclipse's own blog: Microsoft violated an agreement and left me homeless with nothing. Whether that's a former employee, contractor, or external researcher remains unverified. What isn't in question is the damage. Huntress Labs has confirmed exploitation activity linked to Russian geo-located infrastructure, and CISA has added Bluehammer CVE202633825 to its known exploited vulnerabilities catalog. The exploit chain reads like a product roadmap for endpoint compromise. Bluehammer and Red Sun are 2 separate privilege escalation paths through Windows Defender, the tool that's supposed to stop attacks, not enable them. Undefend then blinds Defender while making the system appear healthy. Green Plasma offers an alternate SYSTEM escalation path through broader Windows internals, and Mini Plasma targets the Cloud Files mini filter driver. Then there's Yellow Key, which has drawn the most attention because it targets BitLocker. A detailed video breakdown explains the mechanism. Windows 11's recovery environment automatically replays NTFS file system transactions from external volumes. A malicious USB containing crafted FSTX transactions deletes WINPESHL.NE. The file telling recovery which application to load, causing a drop to a command shell that already has the TPM unsealed BitLocker key in memory. The mitigation is relatively straightforward for informed administrators: enable TPM pin or remove the AutoStex registry key. But Eclipse has claimed the bypass works even with TPM plus pin, just hasn't published that proof of concept. Eclipse has promised RCE drops and a big surprise for June Patch Tuesday, plus a dead man's switch for automatic disclosure. The researcher has been banned from both GitHub and GitLab. Benchmarks, agents, and the enterprise reality gap. The DeepStWE benchmark made waves this week by claiming Claude Opus cheats, but the details are more nuanced. When the prompt and repository state don't match, Opus 4.7 explores recent changes with Gitlog and recovers the gold solution from .git history. Is that cheating, or exactly what a senior engineer would do when the codebase doesn't match the spec? Several commenters pointed out that if .git is present and no constraint prohibits its use, Gitlog is environment use, not rule violation. The deeper concern: Sonnet 4.6 on high effort beats Opus 4.6 on max effort in some configurations, and GPT-54 mini outranks Kimi K2. .6, which doesn't match practitioner experience. The real lesson is that evaluation harnesses need to declare their environment contract alongside the score. ITB ENCHAA collaboration between artificial analysis and IBM offers a more controlled view. Across 59 Kubernetes incident response tasks, the best model. Claude Opus 4.7 at max effort scores just 47%. GPT-55 follows at 46% Q, WEN3. .7 max at 42%. These are real SRE scenarios requiring log reading, dependency tracing, and root cause identification. More turns don't help. Gemini 3.1 Pro Preview averages 83 turns per task, but scores only 30%, while Gemma 431B averages 58 turns and scores 37% at $0. 14 task versus $2.23. Models that over-investigate surface upstream fault injection mechanisms as false positives, tanking their precision scores. Open weight models sit on the cost frontier. GLM-51 reasoning scores 40% at $1. 23 task, matching Gemini 3.5 Flash at $1.70. A rigorous ACM paper deepens this picture through controlled ablation of compound LLM agent design across 3,475 episodes in a cyberdefense poem DP. The headline: Programmatic State Abstraction, giving the agent a deterministic, structured summary instead of raw observations, delivers the largest performance improvement per token, up to 76% better outcomes at near zero marginal cost. Hierarchy helps when applied sparingly, bounded specialists with strict I/O contracts. But distributing deliberation tools across a hierarchy produces what the authors term a deliberation cascade. Independent self-critique loops in each subagent amplify uncertainty rather than resolving it, degrading performance for all 6 tested models while doubling token costs. The design principle: invest in context engineering and bounded task decomposition, not deeper per agent reasoning. This aligns with the ITB-ENCHA finding that more turns actively hurt. The failure mode is the same whether the over-reasoning happens within one agent or across a hierarchy. On the theoretical side, A new paper claims the mathematical thread connecting a decade of robustness techniques. PGD adversarial training, RLHF, data augmentation, showing they all implicitly estimate the same deployment nuisance covariance matrix. When estimated correctly and applied as a geometric penalty, sycophancy on Q, WEN2.5-7b drops from 38.5% to 13.5%, beating standard PGD adversarial training by 14.8 points on clean accuracy. The kicker from Theorem G: if the matrix misses even one direction where real-world data varies, the model will actively exploit that blind spot. More data and bigger models won't fix a geometry problem. Agentic coding, dynamic workflows, and the slow code movement. Anthropic launched dynamic workflows in Claude Code, a feature that lets the agent write orchestration scripts running tens to hundreds of parallel subagents in a single session. The showcase example: Jared Sumner used dynamic workflows to port Bun from Zig to Rust, roughly 750,000 lines of code, in 11 days with 99.8% of existing tests passing. One workflow mapped Rust lifetimes across the Zig codebase. Another wrote every $' file with paired reviewers per file. A fixed loop drove the build until clean. Anthropic is transparent about the trade-off. Dynamic workflows consume meaningfully more usage than a typical Claude Code session. Enterprise plans have them off by default, and the first trigger shows what's about to run and asks for confirmation. Nolan Lawson published a thoughtful counterpoint, using AI to write better code more slowly. His technique runs Claude, Codex, and Cursor Bugbot in parallel against every PR, then has a synthesizer deduplicate and rank findings. The false positive rate is near zero, and it consistently surfaces criticals and highs that predate the PR. Velocity doesn't increase. The review sends him down side quest rabbit holes fixing pre-existing bugs. But codebase health improves steadily. A commenter's caveat is worth repeating. The agents find the bugs. You still need to understand them. On r/Claude AI, practitioners debating overnight autonomous coding have reached pragmatic consensus. It works for tightly scoped tasks with machine-checkable stop conditions. Failing tests that should pass, dependency bumps, mechanical refactors. The pro move is an orchestration script that commits after each step, writes a handoff summary, and rehydrates a fresh session to prevent context drift. Anything architectural, it'll drift and commit very confidently to the wrong abstraction. The adversarial multi-agent setup. Separate agents for requirements, architecture, implementation, and review, is what makes overnight runs trustworthy for some practitioners, but even veterans acknowledge the morning triage cost. DeepSeek v4 and the pricing power myth. DeepSeek v4 Pro's pricing tells the story. $0.435 per million input tokens, 87 cents output. That's 28.7 cheaper than Claude Opus on output and 11.5 cheaper than GPT-55 on input. The Reddit post framing this as popping the American AI bubble is provocative, but the thesis, that AI pricing power is eroding faster than Wall Street expects, has teeth. When a model is competitive at 1/20th the cost, margin compression becomes a question of when, not if. The argument gains force when you realize v4 Flash already runs locally on consumer hardware. A self-described vibe coder got the 2.84 B total 1.3 B active MOE running at 8.4 TOC/S on 3 RTX 3090s with 128 GB system RAM. The catch: mainline llama.c PP doesn't support v4's architecture yet. Compressed sparse attention, sync horn normalized hyperconnections, 256 expert routing. So it lives on forks. Most Hugging Face GUFs were quantized against an older fork with incompatible metadata, requiring 12 missing metadata keys and about 393 tensor renames. The poster published a one-pass Python patcher that stream copies the 150 GB weight blob with a rewritten header in 4 minutes on NVMe. The key flag.cpumo keeps all 256 expert FFNs in system RAM while 16 GB of non-expert weights fit across the GPUs. The third thread connects the dots, and r/local llama discussion on why AI companies spread FUD about their own products. The critihype thesis. If the critique is that AI is too powerful, too dangerous, too close to AGI, that's marketing, not critique. The fear serves a specific purpose: encouraging regulation that creates barriers to entry before open models render centralized gatekeeping irrelevant. Without regulation, they have no moat. With regulation, they have a regulatory apparatus they can capture. Whether that's tinfoil hat territory or pattern recognition, the economic logic is hard to dismiss when a 284B model runs on 3 consumer GPUs at pennies per million tokens. The 3 threads form a causal chain that this publication has covered in pieces but never unified. Pricing pressure makes local inference viable. Local inference viability erodes the API moat. and the erosion of the moat makes regulatory capture the only durable defense. The KV cache compression race. Running long context models locally means confronting a brutal memory constraint. At 128K context, the KV cache can dwarf the model weights. This publication has tracked KV cache quantization methods across 6 editions, and the community consensus has been bleak. Sub-4-bit approaches consistently degraded quality to the point where FP8 emerged as the practical default. OSCAR may be the first method to crack the accuracy wall below 3 bits. It proposes a clean solution. Capture Q/K/V activations on a calibration set, compute attention-aware covariance matrices per layer, then derive rotations that align quantization with the directions attention actually uses. The result is INT2 KV cache storage, roughly 7 compression versus BF16, with single-digit percentage point accuracy drops. On a 5 benchmark mean across reasoning and coding tasks, QWEN38, B under OSCAR scores 69.42% versus 70.84% for BF16, while Quadrant 2 collapses to 10.14% and naive INT2 hits 0. OSCAR is the only INT2 method that doesn't collapse on reasoning, and it's integrated into SGLang with a pre-computed rotation zoo on Hugging Face, so users can skip calibration entirely. Shard takes a different approach. PCA plus INT4 on K heads, effectively low rank once you undo rope and Hadamard rotation plus vector quantization on V heads. The result is about 10 kV compression on Llama-3.1. -8, B without measurable NIH or long bench degradation. Community reception was characteristically blunt. Stop vibe coding for Llama 3.1, make it for Qwen 3.627b. But the split K/V treatment is a genuinely novel design choice. Light VLM bundles KV compression with INT4 weights and visual token pruning for vision language models, squeezing LLAVA-15. -7B to 6.2 GB peak memory at 71.9 TOC/S on an RTX 4090, down from 1.5. 1 GB at FP16. And Speech Tokenizer Arena applies the same side-by-side comparison philosophy to discrete speech tokenizers, benchmarking in codec, DAC, speech tokenizer, and Hubert units on reconstruction quality, bitrate, and downstream WAR. The kind of standardized comparison the speech community has lacked. Custom inference engines, AMD and the Edge. HIP Engine is a new ROC. Meter's native inference engine built from scratch with custom HIP/C++ kernels. No PyTorch dependency. That runs Qwen 3.6 MOE competitively with Llama.cpp on RDNA3. On a Radeon 7900 XTX, prefill throughput with Paraquant hits 2,839 TOC/S at 4K context versus 2,177 for Llama.cpp HIP. With near-lossless INT8 KV cache, the full 256K context window fits in under 24 GB. On Strix Halo Ryzen AI Max plus 395, it already beats Llama.cpp HIP on decode at most context lengths with minimal targeted optimization. The engine ships with 100-plus custom kernels, initial GGUF support, and an AGPLv3 license. The GGUF path is strategically important. It means existing quantized models work without custom training, unlike Paraquant, which can take days to quantize. The developer notes the kernel optimization was the result of hundreds, thousands, of rounds of AI-assisted generation, making HIP Engine itself an artifact of the agentic coding workflows discussed above. Community interest centers on multi-GPU support and expanding beyond Qwen to Gemma 4 and other architectures. At the extreme edge, a developer built a from-scratch C++ engine to run MINICP MV4.6 entirely on the Orange Pi AI Pro, a $149 board with Huawei's Ascend 310B NPU. Stock ECLN gave 2.88 TOC/S. Custom Ascend Cube kernels for M=1 matmul, 16-chunk LM head tiling, and vectorized causal com 1D brought it to 5.90 TOC/S, a 2 speedup. Both text generation and Siglet Vision Tower run natively on the NPU with zero PyTorch dependency. The theoretical floor at 44 GB/s bandwidth is 32 ms per step. Current latency sits at 170 ms, with fused int4/int8 dequantization as the next optimization target. Platform control, APIs, labels, and the data arms race. Volkswagen has permanently disabled the unofficial API that Home Assistant's Volkswagen Carnet integration relied on, requiring a client assertion only approved commercial partners can provide. Existing tokens work until expiry. New authorizations are blocked. The Android app and browser login remain functional. This isn't a service outage. It's a deliberate lockout of third-party automation. A commercial API exists, used by Tronity, but is paid and gated. For the Home Assistant community, this is the automaker equivalent of the robot vacuum that bricked when its owner blocked telemetry. Your car, their data. YouTube is moving in a more transparent direction, rolling out automatic detection and labeling of AI-generated video content. Starting May 2026, if a creator doesn't disclose photorealistic AI use and YouTube systems detect it, a label is applied automatically, displayed as an overlay and below the player. Creators can contest incorrect detections, but disclosures are permanent for content made with YouTube's own tools, Veo, DreamScreen, or carrying synthetic media provenance metadata. The policy explicitly notes a disclosure label alone does not change how a video is recommended or whether it's eligible to earn money. A line that will be tested as AI-generated content scales. A 103 billion token Usenet corpus spanning 1980. 2013 is being pitched as pre-web, human-only, zero AI contamination. It sounds valuable until the community starts poking holes. Multiple commenters questioned the ethics of licensing other people's public posts for commercial training without consent. Others noted AI labs likely already scraped Usenet, and the free preview, paid full access model goes against the spirit of Usenet and the pre-algorithm internet. Meanwhile, Clark Browser takes the automation versus detection arms race to the source level. Rather than papering over headless browser tells with JavaScript injections, it patches Chromium where the values originate. Navigator.WebDriver returns false. Plugins show 5 PDF viewer entries. WebGL strings match real GPUs. UA client hints are coherent. It passes Cloudflare challenges, Sanisoft and BrowserLeaks in testing, ships pre-built binaries under MIT, and offers 30+ .fingerprint CLI switches for deterministic identity generation.